welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, covering part 4 to the story I covered earlier, which is titled, Fiancée told people we were in an open relationship, so I banged her cousin, ended the engagement. And guys, I don't need to do a big recap because you were just there. And I'll admit the first story was kind of dragged out a bit, but we're not going to get into the real details of what's going on with this whole crazy family here. And where things left off, there's about to be a big brawl in the backyard, big cat fight between this guy's ex, Nora, and the cousin he banged, who was seducing him after the whole thing went down. And you all heard, of course, there's some reason why there's all that animosity between the two. So you're going to hear what's going on here, leading into why this woman left her husband, and more interesting details about this wonderful family. So, continues, says, as soon as they got outside, Nora pushed the cousin down on the ground and jumped on her back. Sarah started to punch the back. She started to punch the back of the cousin's head and shoulders. The cousin was able to get up on her knees and try to buck Nora off. She was able to shake Nora loose enough that the cousin could roll off on her back. She grabbed Nora's hair and started to tear at Nora's shirt. This is freaking hilarious. The cousin was still trying to buck Nora off. Nora was punching the cousin around her face while the cousin was trying to block the blows with her arms. The cousin was wearing a halter top. One of the skirts she was wearing barely covers her butt, and panties that cover almost nothing. Sarah had on a sleeveless button-up blouse and shorts. The cousin was able to tear open Sarah's skirt, so Sarah's fighting in her bra. Everyone gathered to watch the spectacle. Rich families, huh? Their mother was yelling at their fathers to do something, but he stood there frozen. The uncles were intently watching the show, while the aunts were yelling at the top of them to stop. The girl cousins were all laughing, and the boys' cousins were rooting them on. When the cousin ripped Nora's blouse open, the boy cousins started to yell, "Bra! Bra!" The cousin obliged by pulling Nora's bra up, exposing Nora's boobs. Nobody was recording this? How did this not end up on YouTube? Mike, Sarah's husband, was in the bathroom when the fight started. When he came out of the bathroom, he went out to stop it. Loud boos from the cousins. Mike got the cousin to let go Nora's hair and pulled Nora off the cousin. The cousin was bleeding from her lip, and the area around her eye was swollen. She had some of Nora's hair in her hand. Sarah looked at me and said Mike didn't need to oogle the two girls. He's probably seen them both naked already. Probably slept with both of them. Sarah started crying, and I was stunned. Well, that's a sudden abrupt change here from the cat fight to realizing her husband was cheating on her, no doubt with both of them. Sarah was crying pretty hard. I didn't know what to do. The baby started crying, and Sarah left to fetch him. She brought him down and started to feed him. She was still crying. I always thought Sarah and Mike had the perfect marriage. One of the reasons I wanted to marry is because I thought Nora and I would be as happy as Sarah and Mike. I asked Sarah if she really thought Mike was cheating on her. Sarah continued to cry, feed the baby, but she nodded. When she calmed down a bit, Sarah told me we'll talk about Mike in a minute, but she wanted to continue with what happened next at the parents' that Sunday. After the fight, the cousin's mother grabbed her and pulled her out of the car. They went home. Nora went up to change and look for damage. She came down and continued to help with the party. Mike, Sarah's husband, said he had some work to finish up and left for his office. Sarah and Gail sat down, and Gail told Sarah what went on at the bar Friday night. Then Man Bun showed up, blah, 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 and Sarah's father told him to leave. Man Bun said he just needed to talk to Nora for a minute. Her father yelled, "Out!" Man Bun left, and Nora followed him out. She was gone for about 30 minutes. Sarah's water broke about 4 p.m. This is right after that big fight. And everyone was gone, but then except her parents, Nora and Sarah. She called Mike's cell and went straight to voicemail. His phone was off. Sarah asked me who turns off their phone when their wife is going to give birth any minute. Yeah, anyway. She tried his direct line to his office phone, but there was no answer. So they decided that her mother would continue to try to find Mike. Her father would go to Sarah's house and pick up the hospital go bag, and Nora would drive Sarah to the hospital. Right after she got in that big backyard MMA brawl with the cousin. On the way to the hospital, Mike finally called Sarah back. He told her he was leaving his office and pulled out his phone to check in and realized his phone was dead. Really? Really? His wife could give birth any minute. His fucking phone is dead. He plugged it in to charge in the car and saw all the messages and called Sarah. Sarah asked where he's been. He said he was in his office. He just got in his car, his office parking lot, and Sarah had told him to come straight to the hospital. She and Nora were pulling into the hospital parking lot now. So they hung up, and Sarah opened the tracking app they had on their phones for emergencies. The tracking app showed Mike leaving in the parking lot at a hotel over 10 miles from his office. Really? Sarah said her contradictions were still very far apart, or her contractions, not contradictions, her contractions were still very far apart and not yet too severe. Things were just beginning. She would not give birth for another 18 hours. First babies take their time. When Nora parked and started to get out of the car, Sarah told her to stay in the car. They needed to talk. What was this about Mike being unfaithful? Nora said it was nothing. She was just trying to get Sarah to back off about Nora and Man Bun. Sarah told Nora if she wants any sort of relationship with Sarah ever again, that she has to tell her what she knows about Mike right now. So these two sisters, and obviously she has strong suspicions that the one was sleeping with her husband. She's just going to admit it in the car. This woman who just got into a backyard brawl and has proven to be a liar, a cheater, a manipulator, all these ugly things, is just going to confess. Nora started crying, shocker, and asked Sarah not to hate her. The classic line. Sarah said, just tell her, and Nora was Sarah's maid of honor. She set up a lunch meeting with Mike's best man to talk about the wedding. They wanted to arrange a boy and girls party for the groom and bride before the wedding. And maybe they could all do something together after the wedding when Sarah and Mike were off on their honeymoon. Okay, she's talking about the past here. Mike showed up at the lunch instead as his best man. Nora and Mike ended up in the hotel. They continued to sleep together throughout that summer, until Nora went back to school for her sophomore year. When she returned home for semester break, Mike was no longer interested. He had moved on to someone else. So she's banging her sister's fiancé, then husband. Looks like Nora is about to get another ass whooping by a pissed off pregnant woman. Nora was crying harder and explained that she's always been jealous of Sarah. Sarah was the perfect girl who was going to have the perfect wedding, the perfect marriage, and the perfect life. Well, as Al Bundy once said, don't try to understand women. Women understand women. They hate each other. When Mike came on to Nora, Nora was flattered and amused that Sarah's life was not so perfect after all. Sarah asked how Nora could do that to her sister, and she said she was hooking up with immature jerks at college and Man Bun and others when she was at home. More losers. Sarah had Mike, a real man, while Nora had a bunch of silly boys. That Mike was interested in Nora was incredibly thrilling and a real ego boost. Ding, ding, ding. Attention to validation. Nora was walking on air all summer. Nora said that Sarah must have felt the same way when Mike started pursuing her. How could anyone resist Mike? She's so sorry. Can Sarah forgive her? Yeah, what a load of crap. Sarah told me she was flattered by Mike's attention when they met. He was smart, funny, ambitious, handsome, and sexy. She got butterflies in her stomach just by thinking about him. Her only concern about him was that his family was so rich, and at times, Sarah and Nora's family needed food stamps to eat. Mike got a new Porsche 911 when he graduated from his private exclusive high school. Oh, some rich, spoiled brat, trust fund douchebag, huh? Sarah got congratulations and dinner at Denny's when she graduated public school. Well, I was under the impression that her family had money. That's what it seemed like in the beginning. She was worried about their words. Their worlds were too far apart for them to be happy together. Sarah said, don't get her wrong, it's better to be rich than poor, but Sarah found out she was right about the difference in wealth. People that rich are a whole different species. Let me tell you guys, I've met people in my life that literally barely had 2 nickels to rub together, and they're the most kind, generous people ever, and happy. And I met people with lots of money. Not all like this, but I've definitely met people, families with lots of money, and they are the most cold, impersonal, unhappy people I've ever met. It's amazing. After Nora told her about her and Mike, Sarah got out of the car to go into the hospital. She decided she needed to concentrate on giving birth, now worry about the marriage later. I'm surprised that something physical didn't happen right then and there. Sarah knew she'd be put in a birthing room with occasional visits from a nurse. She didn't want to be alone. Nora was better than no one, barely. When Mike arrived, Sarah threw Nora out. She didn't want Mike there either, but Mike had come to some of the other couples' childbirth classes. He'd be at least some help as a birth coach. Not a lot of good choices given that the sister and husband she had. I'm sure she could have gotten a nurse in there with her. So Sarah gave birth, and she and Mike took the baby home. Sarah said she no longer talks to Nora. Sarah wouldn't let Nora visit her in the hospital. Sarah wouldn't have anything to do with Nora. Now it was Mike's turn. Well, in this situation, the worst person is the sister, because the sister cheating with the sister's husband, she's far worse. But the guy's a scumbag too. Time to get rid of him. But now we know why she left this guy. After they settled in, Sarah confronted Mike about his infidelity. Mike admitted that he had hooked up with Nora the summer Sarah and Mike were married, but it was just a fling, no big deal. What is with these people? No big deal. Mike was having commitment issues, getting cold feet. Nora was just an escape from his worries about being married. Oh, okay, honey, no problem. Now I'll give birth to your child. Fuck you. Who was he seeing now? They went back and forth, with Mike denying he was cheating. When Sarah asked why the tracking on his phone showed him leaving a hotel, when he said it was his office, Mike finally admitted he sort of fell into a relationship with a fellow attorney at his work. It was a no big deal either. The woman is also married, and both wants to remain married. His affair was just a diversion. Mike was worried of becoming a father. He'd be even more tied down. He swore to Sarah that he'd never see the woman or cheat on Sarah again. Sure. Once a cheater, always a cheater. This guy's a scumbag. Please forgive him. Sarah wanted the woman's name, and after more arguing, Mike told Sarah who the woman was. Well, this woman's going to get an ass whooping, and her husband deserves to know. Sarah told him to get out. She needed time away from him to think about what to do. Another argument, but he realized she was serious. He moved back into the house he was living at in his parents' estate before he and Sarah married. A house Sarah refused to live in. Yeah, Sarah said they're that rich. They each had their own house on a big estate. Even the servants have houses on the estate, although much smaller ones. She was left with a baby and a full-time nanny that Mike's parents had hired. I asked if Sarah confronted the woman Mike had an affair with. She said no, but she thought the woman's husband should be told. Sarah had HR at Mike's work give the husband's name and phone number. Mike is the big kahuna at his law firm. Mike's great-great-grandfather started the law firm over 100 years ago. No one there is going to refuse requests from Mike's wife. The husband was listed as the woman's emergency contact in her personal file. She called the husband and told him about his wife's affair with Mike. The one has since left the law firm. Sarah thinks that they're divorcing. Well, probably. Sarah's decided that their marriage is over. She contacted the attorney that had done up their prenup for Sarah, and Sarah told her that to get the divorce started. I asked, prenup? Sarah smiled for the first time since she told me her husband was cheating on her. She said rich people want prenups. A few months before the wedding, her in-laws ambushed her with paperwork that they shoved in front of her and told her to sign. Well, I can't blame anybody for wanting a prenup in today's world, especially rich people, but still, this girl here, according to the story, hasn't done anything wrong, so she's earned some things. I mean, let's be honest here. And let's be honest, they're so loaded, it's nothing. But still, what a fucking mess. Anyhow, they even brought a notary with them. It was a prenup. They told Sarah that she had to sign it as written, or they, Mike's parents, would not approve of the marriage. Yeah, really, they're gonna give her a freaking prenup, and she's expected to sign it right then and there, actually reading it, have an attorney read it. Really? Sarah said she didn't really care about the prenup and was about to sign when her future mother-in-law chuckled and said something like, "We need to protect the family's fortune." Mike's parents always thought Sarah was a gold digger who was marrying Mike for his money. Sarah wondered why Mike wasn't there for this discussion about the prenup. Because he's a fucking coward. Sarah said telling her they needed to protect the family fortune from her really pissed her off. She told them she needed an attorney to read the prenups before she signed. Well, there you go. Guys, never do a prenup unless you're reading through it. And I want to bet you this girl wasn't with him for the money. If Mike's parents didn't approve of the marriage, she and Mike would just live together. If they had kids, she would not have to worry about the in-laws interfering. She would not be married, so she would not have any in-laws. Mike's parents said, fine, give it to an attorney to just read. Just make sure the attorney doesn't change anything. If there's an issue, the attorney can certainly dispute things and potentially change things. Sarah got a referral from the family law attorney at Mike's firm. Conflict of interest? The attorney in Mike's office says she's referring Sarah to someone who sharks flee from. She met with the referred attorney to go over the prenup. The attorney laughed after reading the prenup. She told Sarah if Sarah ever divorces Mike, Sarah gets nothing. If Mike ever divorces Sarah, Sarah gets nothing. If they have children, Mike gets custody and Sarah would see them when Mike makes them available. She said the prenup was an insult to Sarah. The middle finger right in her face. If Sarah agreed to this, the attorney would break Sarah's fingers to prevent her from signing. They came up with a fair prenup. You say that's ridiculous. I mean, come on here. You would think that this girl would be like, you know what? I'm not going to marry into this family given this whole sham of a prenup they just gave me here. If they divorce and it's his fault, she obviously is earned to get something and should obviously have some time with the kids. It's bullshit. Sure, I, of course, am for guys here, but we got to be reasonable here. The parents read the revised prenup and flipped out. They finally agreed on a prenup for a divorce or separation that would give Sarah half the value of the house they both own and alimony and child support for any children. Okay, alimony, but great child support. Mike's parents don't want anyone to think their grandchildren weren't being taken care of. Sarah would have full custody of any children, and Mike and her in-laws would have scheduled times with them. I asked if there was an infidelity clause. No. Mike's parents were insistent that the prenup did not penalize adultery in a divorce. Probably because they're all cheaters. That's usually how wealthy families go. His parents knew what they were doing. Sarah thought at the time the whole prenup stuff was silly, but she realized now they just had seen the big red flag. You're darn right about that. Sarah continues that she would not have been surprised by Mike's adultery. Sarah's mother-in-law goes shopping for clothes in Paris twice each year for 2 weeks. She missed her June trip to Paris when Mike and Sarah got married. She excitedly told Sarah about her delayed plans to go to Paris now that the wedding was over. Sarah was worried that her mother-in-law would ask if Sarah wanted to come with her to Paris. That's something Sarah would do if she had a new daughter-in-law. But Sarah said she couldn't imagine anything worse than being alone with her mother-in-law for 2 weeks. Pretty much any woman says that. She asked Mike what to do if the mother-in-law asked Sarah to come with her. Mike laughed and told her not to worry about going to Paris. His mother went to Paris twice a year to shop. She also went to NYC 3 or 4 times a year to buy clothes. She always takes a lover. There you go. The same guy year after year to Paris, whatever new lover she is currently seeing when she goes to NYC. There's no way his mother would let Sarah spoil those plans. And that is why they have the big infidelity clause, because the family's a bunch of cheaters. Sarah said she was shocked. Did Mike's father know? Mike laughed again. His father has had a 25-year-long affair with one of his mother's closest friends, the wife of his father's best friend. All of them knew. No one cared, as long as none of them caused any public embarrassment. No stepping out publicly with any boyfriends or girlfriends. Paris and NYC were okay. Quiet getaways were okay. Taking someone else's wife or husband to a gala was definitely not okay. Yeah, I think a lot of times these super wealthy families, they literally get married to help the families move ahead in life, their companies. Kind of like the way, back during the times when you had kings and queens running countries, they would swap, they'd mix and match families, everything. A Spanish princess would come over and marry the prince over in England, or a French princess would go over to a guy in the Netherlands. You get the point, just to, keep order, have connections, all that, keep everybody running the show. Same thing here, but in terms of commitment, there's no love there. And they're all cheating left and right. What's most important to all of them is there's no scandals. As long as they all remain pillars of the community, people who are admired, none of them care about who was sleeping with whom. Sarah told me she wished she had known about this and his family before they were married. But she told herself she married Mike, not his parents. It turns out she married someone who thought sleeping with Sarah's sister and a coworker was no big deal. She knew that Mike would never be faithful to her. She had married his parents after all. There you go. This is why you get to know someone's family big time before you get married to them. So she's now divorcing Mike. Mike and her in-laws were fighting her about the divorce. Why would she divorce him simply because Mike had a few flings? Her mother-in-law even suggested that Sarah discreetly take a lover or two if she wants. Mike won't mind. The important thing is to keep the family intact for all outward appearances, and there will be no scandal. People like Mike and his parents don't divorce. They're wealthy enough to live completely separate lives if that's what they choose to do, but they never divorce. Whole other world, guys. Every night after work, Mike would come by to see his son, but he never spent more than a few minutes with the boy. He really came to try to convince Sarah to remain married. And during the day, Sarah's mother-in-law came by to see her grandson. After a few minutes with the boy, she would lay into Sarah about the divorce. Once her mother-in-law even brought her minister to tell Sarah about the Almighty himself wanted Mike and Sarah to remain married. The Almighty, huh? Maybe the Almighty has something to say about the cheating too. And all the deceit going on there. The mother-in-law told Sarah she should seek counseling from the minister. He'll tell her how the real world operates. When none of that worked, her mother-in-law told Sarah she and Mike could live separately, but it was important they remain married. Sarah realized neither Mike nor his parents really cared about the boy, or about Sarah. Mike and his mother just came to try to bully her into staying in the marriage. She kept telling them there would be no counseling, no ministers, no lovers, no reconciliation. They would live separate lives because they were divorcing. The prenup she and Mike signed said if either wanted a divorce, there would be a divorce, period. The divorce terms were spelled out in the prenups. Nothing more to talk about. Well, there you go. But Mike and his mother were relentless. She talked to her lawyer about restraining orders, but that was a no-go. Mike was entitled to see his son, so were the in-laws. It's not like Mike or his mother were violent, they just talked and bullied. Sarah can't get a restraining order unless Mike or his parents do something illegal. Sarah said she tried to stay from Mike and his mother. She would leave. She would leave the boy with the nanny and head for the gym when she knew that they were coming. She tried locking herself in her room, but she can't be away from the baby for long. They would just outweigh her and try to bully her some more. Sarah's attorney can't get them to adhere to set times for their visits. I can see how the father has the right to see his child, of course, but in my opinion, not the grandparents. I could be wrong there, but... So she asked for a hearing about their behavior, but that could take months. They come and go as they please. So that's why Sarah's here with me. After a month of this nightmare, she can't take it anymore. She doesn't want to remain married to a serial adulterer. She doesn't want an open relationship. She doesn't want to be bullied by her husband and mother-in-law. She wants a divorce and to be left alone. Hey, who can blame her? Well, now we know why she left and all that, but still you're taking on a hell of a lot. And these people this family has the resource to hire private investigators and get anybody else they have influence on to track this girl down. And it's a mess, but she can't be with these people. You're taking on a lot by letting her in, but you're obviously a good guy and a good friend, and she was good to you and you're with her sister before all this happened. But still, remember, even though you're doing a nice thing, no good deed goes unpunished. You have to establish boundaries. If I didn't think she was justified hiding from Mike, that's okay. If I want to call Mike or tell him where she is, still no hard feelings. It will just all start up again with Mike and his mother. I asked what Sarah's lawyer said about her hiding from Mike, and Sarah said she's talked to her lawyer before she called me. Her lawyer told her that the prenup gives Sarah full custody with scheduled visits from Mike and his parents, but they refused to stick to any schedule. Sarah's entitled to vacation time alone with her son. She doesn't need Mike's permission. She also doesn't need Mike's permission to live where she wants and with her son. There's nothing that compels Sarah to tell him where she and her son are. When Mike asks why she left, tell him he and his mother refused to follow a schedule for their visits and are in violation of the prenup. The prenup is also binding for their separation. Sarah can't deal with that, so she took off. But Sarah doesn't have to schedule visits for him to see the boy. Sarah should start to think about times to suggest to Mike for him to see her and the baby. Don't let him intimidate her into seeing him when it's inconvenient for her or she doesn't feel safe. If she's going to continue to live with me, do day trips to see Mike. Maybe he can see the baby when she takes the boy to his pediatrician. That's probably the safest situation. If not, just make sure Sarah and the boy meet Mike in public place and don't let the baby out of her sight. Sarah's in control, not Mike or his mother. One more thing. Sarah needs to record all her conversations with Mike, especially when they talk about scheduling times for him to see the baby. We want to establish that he is being protective. He's being proactive in trying to set up visits for Mike. Perfectly legal in this state to record with one party's knowledge and consent. Mike or his parents may try to get a judge to break the prenup. Sarah's lawyer told Sarah not to worry about that. The lawyer said no one has ever broken a prenup that she's written. Well, it's the first time for everything. And you can't tell me these judges aren't under the pocket, are in the pocket of somebody else, like this family. They always try and never succeed. They ended the call with the lawyer, telling Sarah to stay in touch with Mike, suggesting times for him to visit with the boy and when she's convenient for Sarah, but always do what Sarah feels is best for her and the boy. The divorce will be fast or slow, but it will happen. Let the lawyer worry about the divorce. Sarah should worry only about herself and her son. Sarah looked at me to see what I was going to do. Yeah, this is a lot to unload on this guy, given everything he's been through, I might add, in the first story. I asked her what Mike says when they talk now. She says Mike is angry. He demands to know where she is. He wants her to come home. He tells her she's keeping him from his son, but he never asks about the boy, how the boy is doing. Well, the guy has a right, in spite of this situation, the guy has a right to see his son and to know where his son is. I mean, This guy's a douchebag and the family are assholes, but still. Or how Sarah's doing. He just barks orders. He tells her that people like him don't get divorced. Sarah can have whatever life she wants, with or without him around, but no divorce. He offered her $500,000 for herself if she comes home and calls off the divorce. $500,000, that's chump change to these people. Sarah says he doesn't really care about her or the baby, just about not divorcing. This guy probably doesn't care about divorcing, it's his parents. Anybody in his family getting divorced is newsworthy, especially the heir to the fortune. The bad press would be a scandal for Mike and his parents. There's nothing worse than people believing they're just like everyone else. Ha! That's true. When it comes to rich people, they don't want to be like everybody else. Although the rich people stereotypically are like other rich assholes. Those who can't make any good decisions, so they end up divorcing. Old money people don't want anyone to doubt their ability to always make the right decisions. They consider themselves aristocracy who are above any kind of scrutiny. I asked her if there's no divorce, why the prenups? Sarah laughed and said they ultimately can't prevent a divorce, but the prenups prevent some gold digger from getting anything. And only the people they consider gold diggers get the prenups. The real reason they don't get divorced is because they don't want to divvy up the money. Marriages are meant to combine fortunes. Divorces dilute fortunes. So no divorces. Sarah's not going to dilute their money. She said that she told Mike to shove his $500,000 up his ass. I told her that as long as Mike is able to see the boy for the scheduled visits, she can stay with me as long as she wants. Well, that's very nice of you, man, but remember, no good deed goes unpunished. Honestly, I'm really torn about this, but I guess Mike is reaping the consequences of his infidelity. And I also think that Sarah is doing what's best for her and the boy. I wouldn't want my kid anywhere near Mike or his family, but $500,000 would make me think really hard about that. $500,000, yeah, but believe me, we'd all like $500,000, tax-free. But still, $500,000 is nothing to these people. She could probably get way more out of that if she wanted to. But anyhow, that's nice you're helping your friend, but again, no good deed goes unpunished. Be careful, my friend. I have dinner with my parents every Sunday night, and I brought Sarah and her son with me to dinner on the Sunday after they arrived. My mother was very upset about Sarah. I can imagine. What was I doing living with a married woman who's also Nora's sister? She knows I'm done with Nora, but taking up with her married sister. She didn't raise me to do that sort of thing. I'll explain the situation, but I don't think she believes that Sarah and I are not romantically involved. Well, what my mother did know for certain is that she fell in love with Sarah's son. Her biggest disappointment with my breakup with Nora was that she had to put off her having grandchildren. After we ate, my mother took Sarah aside and told her that she would be more than happy to babysit Sarah's boy, anytime for however long Sarah needed. Other than when Sarah had to feed the boy, my mother had him almost the entire time we were at my parents'. She changed his diapers and burped him. He napped in her arms. My mother was glowing. Well, that's nice. You got a sitter. I'm writing this the third week of July. Sarah, her son, and I have been roommates for almost 3 weeks now. My mother babysits when Sarah and I go to the gym, and also a few times when Sarah and I went out with some of my friends. Sarah and I run to the gym, work out, and run home 6 days a week. Well, you're very committed to the gym. Good for you guys. The first time Sarah and I went to the gym, I told her, dressed like that the way she looks, she'll have to fight off the guys at the gym. She better bring some sort of weapon. Sarah smiled at my compliment, but told me she isn't worried about the guys at the gym. She has to protect her. She has me to protect her. See where this is going, bro. Besides, Sarah laughed. Some non-serious attention from guys was welcome at this point, and she winked at me. I told her she has my full attention. She looked at me and asked if I'm hitting on a married woman, and I told her maybe she should follow her mother-in-law's advice and take a lover. We both laughed and headed for the gym. I ran a few feet behind her the whole way to the gym, and she laughed and told me to come up and run beside her. Yeah, you were checking out her ass. I told her running behind her makes the run more enjoyable. I think she liked the attention. I know I liked the view. You're getting yourself into trouble, man. Sarah says she's staying with me for the duration unless I kick her out. She'll do day trips to see the pediatrician and see Mike with the baby. She just has to figure out what to do without someone Mike has hired following her back there. If anyone has ideas on how to meet someone and keep from being followed from the meeting, please share in the comments. Remember that Sarah has the baby with her. If Mike found out where she is, he would make both their lives miserable. The baby wakes up at night and needs changing and feeding. I help by heating up the bottle or fetching a diaper when Sarah needs me. So we're up together some nights in various states of undress, rushing around trying to get the baby back to sleep. I really don't mind helping with the baby, but it's hard getting back to sleep after seeing Sarah wearing her oversized Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan singlet and panties. Sarah is everything her sister Nora is not. I'm constantly asking myself, what I ever saw Nora? Obviously the wrong sister. Well, that was the end of that update, and that definitely took a different turn compared to the first story here, but you're seeing what's going on in this guy's life, and obviously with his sister. And you can all see where this is going, and quite frankly, to the guy writing this in, anybody else listening to this story, I wouldn't get involved with her. He's already involved. That's nice that she was a friend to you all along, and good to you, and she's in trouble and all that, but there's a point where it's really obviously disrupting your life, and it is disrupting your life, okay? And I'm sure other options could be there. You can help her out, but her moving in with you and taking over, and and then she's married and you're obviously into her. I just don't see anything good coming from this. And and you get involved with her, you're getting involved with a single MOM, and you're white knighting, and you're gonna be dealing with this kid's baby forever. And this is the sister of the girl, your former fiance. It's just a big freaking mess. So I would keep it strictly as friendship, nothing more. Help out when you can, but there's gotta be a time limit on this whole thing here. Otherwise, you're gonna be just like a lot of the guys in the previous stories. That's what I really think here. And Sarah could be a great gal. I'm sure she is, but still, this is bringing a lot of potential turmoil in your life, and there's no way this is over. No way at all. So be careful, bro. So anyway, guys, it's a long story, long part 4 here, but you can see, for those of you who want to know where things went with this guy and the whole situation, that wacko family, there you go. And I'm sure there'll be more things going on down the road. Probably part 5 and 6 is when he's banging Sarah here. Now, whether we'll hear from him, who knows? Whether I'll do the story, who knows? It just depends how it is, But anyhow, bro, I wish you the best. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.